Today on Chesapeake Shores, we talk about book clubs, developments, and free falls. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Jessie.
Hello, Jessies, and welcome back to AfterBuzz TV. We're here doing the Chesapeake Shores After Show, Season 2, Episode 4. It's Always Nashville. I'm your host, Marisa Serafini. You can follow me on Twitter at SeraphiniTV. Joining me, I have, as always...
Hi, it's Stefan Lovegrove. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Lovegrove. And you know what? It's interesting about the title of this episode is usually I don't feel like they give away so much thematically about the episode, but It's Always Nashville was such a accurate title.
It is. I mean, I think, and a lot definitely happened in Nashville. We'll talk about
So much.
that too. But overall, quick thoughts about this episode. Did you enjoy this?
I really enjoyed it, and
Yes.
I was excited all day. I came in and I said, Marisa, I'm going to wait till we're on air because I like to share the discussion with all of you listening and watching at home. But I was so excited to talk about the episode. Lots to talk about. At the same time, though, don't you think this season has kind of taken a turn? Because it was definitely less of the all is right in the world, sweet, touching moments, beautiful monologues. It's a little more dramatic this week.
I thought the exact same thing. I mean, we had some moments of levity, and I think that was more the Bre and Jess storyline was definitely our comedy story of this episode. But I like how it's Hallmark. It's very drama, and I think they're handling it well.
Well, but we did need something to keep it light.
Yes.
Because overall, it was a heavy episode. And usually there's a little more back and forth between the light and the heavy. This was just a down in the trenches in Nashville.
Getting dirty. Let's talk about Nashville, shall we? Trace and Lee. All right, so they have their free fall song, which we heard multiple times in this episode. I never got sick of it, but I was like, okay, this is a really good song. But what did you think of the new producer, Mark Hall?
Well,
Or Mark Hall. Sorry, I'm thinking John Rall, Mark Hall. They all rhyme.
right.
Names, I'm sorry.
Close
guys.
enough. It's interesting because I do think he gives off very much a music producer vibe. Like, it's a very believable character. And what's fascinating to me is before, I guess we kind of knew the soloist thing was coming if you watched the preview last week. But as they were in there, running through that song and then on stage, I kept thinking to myself, Lee really does seem like a backup singer. In terms of the volume that they had her voice at, in terms of her stage presence, in terms of just what she brings to the song, I was like, this isn't a duo. She is kind of a backup singer. So I know that they're making the music producer kind of seem like a mean guy putting them in this position, but I think Lee doesn't seem to be adding that much right now.
Yeah, and if you think about it, just the song itself, Lee's singing the harmony. She's not singing the melody. She's not even singing the main
and
words.
it's always Trace singing the melody. They don't seem to rotate. I mean, again, it just somebody in the live chat said Mark Hall was correct. Lee is not an asset on the vocals. It's not that she's bad.
Right.
She's just there. She's just okay.
It's just the song works better as Trace as the main singer.
Now, do you think it's a vocal problem or chemistry? Because he kind of tried to make it seem like there's a chemistry issue.
I think it was the chemistry issue because we've heard her sing. She has a great voice, and she has sung other songs too. So I don't think it's the technical aspect of her voice. I think it's the chemistry of the song. Some songs
it's just
work
not working
better when they're sung only by a solo artist. And I think, and we even saw Mark Hall saying, there was this one line, it was kind of a dig towards Lee. It's like, I'm reading off my notes, but it was more so like, you might be, but no one else is. Like, he was speaking to Trace, like, yeah, you're singing it and you're feeling it, but no one else is, when Lee's literally standing right there.
But I have a point to make about this, and please let me know at home, what did you guys take as the message of the song? Because, I mean, we heard it so many times. And the more I listened to the lyrics, the more I thought it should have fit Lee, because it was this song of longing of like, I can't have somebody and you're with somebody else. And I was like, that doesn't fit Trace. I know that you said on Twitter, Trace is singing this to Abby, but I was like, but he has Abby. This is a song of like, I can't have the person that I love. So I thought it was more appropriate for Lee.
Yeah. But I'm also thinking too, it does kind of fit Trace. I have a couple questions actually. It does kind of fit Trace depending on when they wrote this. I know we saw last episode they were writing songs, but had they wrote Freefall earlier, because Abby did mention the song, it's like, oh, you're re-recording an old song, and I think this is it. So if
it was
Trace
written about
actually
Abby
written this
originally.
song years ago, when Trace was with Wes at the time, it would actually fit Trace's life.
That's true.
And it currently still fits Lee's.
Right. Well, and that's why I would think that Lee would be able to tap into that. And like, because it's I really don't think Trace has feelings for Lee. I really do think it's a one-sided, unrequited situation.
Yes, and I was just going to ask you, what do you think of Lee kind of living in the past? And especially during the moment when Mark Hall was like, sing to who it's like, sing the song to who you really want it for. Sing it for her. It wasn't for Lee. And you saw when Trace was singing, his eyes were closed. He was not looking at Lee whatsoever. But when Lee was singing, she was looking directly at him. But again, what did you think of Lee in this, holding on to something that clearly really isn't there anymore?
Well, I don't want to use a music reference. I don't want to sound like a broken record with Lee, because every week I sit here and I say, and as many of you do in the comments, you wish that she would move on and that the show would just remove her as a storyline and a complication. I don't think she's moved on, and I would think this would be a lot harder for her than it is. But I have to ask you about this. What do you think about the phone call? Because I thought he was a little bit dismissive towards Abby in that phone call. I was a little uncomfortable.
I think it was also the situation he was in. I mean, he was sitting
He was at the
right
bar
next to Lee. Wasn't the best situation. He honestly doesn't know how this record's going to play out either. So it's more so, it's not like he was being honest or dismissive. He just doesn't know the fate of his own music career yet.
I understand that. I just thought it was, I don't know.
I didn't read
keep
it as
getting
dismissive.
moments that scare me with Trace in how he handles things. I don't blame, you know what I wrote down is I don't blame Abby for being worried.
Okay. I don't blame her either. But you saw at the beginning of the episode, Abby and Trace, when Trace was like, there's nothing to worry about. Do you still
Do you
think
interpret nothing
that
to
Trace,
worry about as subtly referring to Lee or Nashville?
I think both. It's going to be fine. That's what he said. Going to be fine. Do you believe this? Do you still believe this?
Well, okay, so this episode has opened up a whole nother series of possibilities, because what if Trace has a solo career and there is the touring element, or he has to go back and forth, but Lee's out of the picture? I would feel a lot better about that.
I would too. Yeah.
Honestly, for me, you guys let me know how much Nashville you think is a threat versus Lee. Lee bothers me more than Nashville. I know Nashville is hard, but Abby works, and Abby has commuted before, and I feel like they can make some travel work. I think Lee is making it really awkward.
Yeah.
And, you know, the solo deal thing is interesting, because I would never tell Trace to do it just because the producer threatened him and said, you won't get another shot. I mean, there's always another opportunity, and if it's the wrong thing or it's out of integrity for you, you don't need to take it on that basis. But I think he needs to decide, just for his sake, does he want to keep making music with Lee?
Yes. How do you think Lee's going to take the news?
Well, do you think Trace is going to tell her? Do you think he's going to lie about it or like delay telling her? Do we think Mark is going to tell her?
I think he's going to delay telling her until eventually Mark is going to have to rip that Band-Aid off.
Like, eventually it has to come out.
Yeah,
They
eventually.
can't hide this forever because Mark doesn't want to proceed with Lee.
I don't think Lee's going to be happy about it. I mean, I don't think anyone in that situation would be, but I don't think she's going to take it well. To the point that she might actually leave.
It's just hard to envision how Lee will react. I'm sure not well, but it's hard. Have we seen her angry?
Not yet.
We're
Not
about
yet.
to see a new Lee.
It will happen. We saw John Rawl, though, the bass player. What did you think of Trace going up to him, trying to make amends, giving him, or like offering his bass position again if their career takes off?
Well, I thought it was interesting that John is at the bar because the last time we saw him, it felt very like bedridden and he's hiding up in a cottage.
Well, he was still healing too.
Right, but I'm saying, so now he's more recovered. He still had the crutches, but like it was just interesting to see him in a new setting to, you know, because he has recovered to an extent.
I think it's the emotional recovery that he's in
That has
now.
not occurred yet.
Yes.
I don't know. I think honestly it's funny because those two things working together I think are kind of pushing Trace into solo. The producers are saying you can't be with Lee and John is not interested. Somebody asked, will Lee and John attempt vengeance? That would be a fun dynamic. I mean, I like Trace. I don't want something bad to happen to him, but that would be fascinating if they teamed up against him. I hadn't thought about that.
Do you think Trace will still keep on this career, though? Is this an old dream, an old career he's trying to chase? Or is this something he still wants to do?
I don't know. First of all, Barbara's words still haunt me
know,
because she made it
shoot.
seem like that dream was something we really needed to be worried about. And ever since Barbara warned us about it, I feel like I keep seeing that flicker in his eyes that this really does light him up, and it does make me concerned.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm torn because I don't know what I want for his character. Because I would love to see him tour and actually have a successful, you know, career in that sense. But that also means time away from Abby, which we also love watching.
Right.
So it's just a split.
Don't you think, though, because we talked
He
about
needs a
this
clone.
last week, his trip to Nashville did not give me the impression that he can just go there for a very quick trip and come back. There's going to be a lot of studio time. There's going to be, like, even without a tour, there's a lot that's going to happen in Nashville. So if he proceeds, there's going to be a lot of time apart.
Yeah, there's going to be more time in Nashville, whether we like it or not. When we saw last episode, he kept saying 3 days. I was like, it's never going to be 3 days.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely see more time in Nashville. All right. Well, before we actually move into another direction, AfterBuzz here, we have some new directions for you. Stefan, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
We do. That was such a good segue. Guys, Marisa has the best segues. And yes, we are moving in new directions. So as always, Chessies, we want to thank you for your support. And we actually have exciting AfterBuzz news today. So whether you are new to this show or you've been with AfterBuzz for a long time on this and other shows, you probably have figured out by now we are definitely the world's #1 destination for TV coverage. Whether it's Hallmark Channel or another network, this is the place. So starting next month, we are expanding our content beyond just the world of after shows that obviously, if you know this podcast, you have come to discover. But we're bringing you a whole new slate of content and different formats and guests. So don't worry, this show is not going anywhere.
Nope.
After shows are not going anywhere. So Hardee's, you're still covered. We're just
and Chessies as
evolving.
well.
Yes, all of you guys we're all covered. We're just evolving. So basically, most of the shows that you love air for part of the year, right? So we have a 10-week season, and then When Calls the Heart will have their season, and these are just part of the year. But during the rest of the year, there's still news breaking that you want to talk about. And certainly the Hallmark universe is no exception. Lots happens in our home and family that we want to talk about. So basically, we are here to be the ESPN of TV talk, and we want to cover this stuff year-round. So moving forward, we're going to have in-depth coverage for comedy, drama, animated, truly anything that you can imagine. Nothing is off limits. And given our no limits approach, we know there's so much content online. I don't remember what it was, but we were out there and I was trying to find something. I was like, Marisa, I can't find the preview for next week's Chesapeake Shores. So sometimes it's hard to find the shows that you love, and we listen to that feedback. So we're restructuring our website, our shows, our platforms, just to make it easier for you to find all the stuff you could possibly want.
So, yeah, it's more so like if it's a drama show, there's an actual drama vertical. You just type in AfterBuzz drama and you have a better, more direct way of finding whatever show or whatever genre, your type of show you're looking for. So Chesapeake Shores and all the Hallmark shows would go under drama.
I was going to say, definitely drama. I
Definitely
think
drama.
that's safe to say. And so we're going to have 9 different divisions on YouTube. You can find some more after shows to get sucked into, whether drama or otherwise.
Yep.
So it's not all going to happen overnight, but we're just going to experiment as we go along, catering to your desires. And we need your participation and feedback, which is really why we're bringing this up on the show.
Yeah.
To all of you Chessies and all of you AfterBuzz fans. So to keep up to date with everything, sign up for our monthly newsletter, which is launching in September, and check out our new show, AfterBuzz Weekly, with Megan, which will keep you up to speed on everything happening here.
Yes, Megan Stecker, a great host here, and you'll see other hosts here, and you'll see me start a show too, which I can't fully disclose all the details, but it's exciting stuff.
And I can say that somebody's question in the live chat is, can you give us something for more Hallmark in general? And I can't give anything away, but your question has been heard. Can you say anything, Marisa?
I can, because
Okay.
I will be doing something for Hallmark. Stay tuned,
Good
everyone.
news.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
So Hallmark news, I'm your girl. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Bre and Jess. Fun. This was a fun storyline. Bre has her new store. Mick's not too thrilled about it, but he just questions whether she can pull off writing and running a store at the same time. I was like, yeah, darn straight she can. She can do both.
And isn't it interesting? She can handle Mick's critique better than Jess can.
Yeah.
Because remember, it was a huge storyline in season 1 that did she feel supported with the bed and breakfast, and she didn't want him to know, and all of this stuff. So I think Bre does a little bit better with Mick's doubt than Jess does.
Yes, I completely agree. I liked how she handled it. And yeah, she's questioning herself too. But I mean, if you're a new store owner running a new business, which we can assume that she hasn't, yeah, you're going to have those questions and self-doubt if she can do everything or not. But what did you think of Jess trying to get herself involved? There's this new book out called It's Always Caroline by the lovely Simon Atwater.
Simon Atwater is such a romance novel name.
Oh, so
I want to know, is that really his
like a
name, or are we
Harley
going to
Quinn
find out it's
book.
not actually Simon in the next episode?
Ooh, it could be his
romance novel
yeah,
name.
it could
Exactly.
be.
I actually like this Jess interference. It seems like a little more fun. She's not stressed in panic mode. And I am confused about this novel. Why exactly did she have to sell this book? Is it just this is what's popular and what was selling, or...
I think it's popular. I think you can consider it, like, God forbid, like the new Twilight of the time. But
because you could tell she didn't want to sell it. And I was like, did we ever get an answer on why she's selling this in so many copies to begin with? Is it just what's in demand?
Yeah, it's what's popular right now, and everyone knows it. Everyone's reading it. It's the book that's trending that has to be read. Or you do a better one, like the 50 Shades of Grey. Everyone read those. You know, just out of pure curiosity,
Right.
if it's good, if it's bad, if it's one-sided, whatever. But this is the popular book as of right now. And they want to start reading groups, especially now having Simon Atwater, who they didn't officially confirm.
Well, which I laughed because when she said reading groups as a suggestion, I wrote down reading groups, ? Does she mean book clubs? Are you familiar with them being called reading groups?
Yeah, no, I just know book club.
Right, that's what I thought. Not to be
But it's
confused with
the
book club
same
online.
thing.
But I think that they're normally called book clubs. But no, I thought somehow Jess's plan worked out. And things tend to work out for Jess.
Oh, yeah.
She makes horrible decisions in real life that could actually get you in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And then it all works out for her. So her crazy plan kind of worked out way better than imagined.
Yeah, she's just the doer. She doesn't really think it through. She just does it, and we see if, like, she throws it on the wall.
To
See
think
if it
about it
sticks.
to put him on a poster. She didn't just
it.
like let it slip out of her mouth in a conversation. She put it on a poster and then was like, well, I guess we have to get him here somehow.
Well, I guess we got to do it now. Yeah, I can approve. But we can also see that Jess started her own business. She had to think outside the box to help get, I was going to say followers, to help get her people into guests for her inn. So she knows what it's like what things you can, like what type of events would actually work well to get, foot traffic in the door. And I think this was a good idea, especially this is the book that's hot right now. So get the author, get some excerpts. What did you think of Simon Atwater when they went to go confront him?
Well, he's the kind of character that you love in a Hallmark movie because he's a little bit like, not arrogant, but like he's not used to people calling him out. And Bre was not going to just blindly praise his book. And I loved his surprise entrance. I loved his like banter back and forth about, so what did you think of my book? I just love this budding situation.
Are you implying I'm a hack? Well, no, unless you say so.
I thought it was so funny when he said that. I was like, now how many times have you been called a hack that this is the first question out of your mouth?
But I love his self-awareness because he knows what he's writing. He knows maybe his books and stories aren't the greatest, that people call him a hack for an actual reason.
I agree, and it makes me wonder, what does he actually want to write?
Right.
Because it gave me the vibe of like, he may know how to write other stuff, and he may not really think that this is great writing, but he's just doing it for sales. So like, what does he really want to write? I think we may learn, potentially.
Did you see any chemistry between Bre and Simon? Because I sure did.
I was going to say, is that a trick question? Of course, Marissa.
Okay. I thought, because I actually questioned, I was like, is it too soon? Because they had a very playful banter, and I actually enjoyed it. They were actually honest with each other.
I don't think it's too soon at all. Okay. In fact, I like this situation better than how Kevin and Sarah, which people have already addressed in the live chat, are kind of dragging along. It's taking forever to get anywhere. I feel like there was like, I mean, yes, it was in a half insulting way at first, but I think that there were already sparks flying for them.
I think so too. It'd be interesting to see if Simon Atwater actually sticks around, because I think he could be good for.
Well, that's true. We don't need someone who leaves and is long distance,
and we don't need another Martin either.
No, but I really don't get the vibe that he's going to be another Martin. I don't know. I have good feelings. Different. I was very excited about it.
I like Simon Atwater, and he's British. I mean, come on, winning.
Right. Somebody said Simon is a very British name.
Oh,
which, sure. Simon Atwater certainly is.
No, it's funny. We actually have a host here. His name is Simon. He's British.
There you go.
True story. Did you, and this is a shout out to any of you viewers who also may have noticed, did you notice when near the beginning, when Megan and Jess and Bre were all talking about the reading groups, there was a shot where Bre had a stack of books in her hand, and it clearly said Cheryl Woods. And Cheryl Woods is the author of the Chesapeake Shores novels.
I did not notice that, but I mean, that's a cute little nugget to put in.
Yeah, I was like, oh. She had 3 books, The Swan Point, Home in Carolina, and Sweet Tea at Sunrise.
And this just occurred to me, but I feel like at this point, Megan should help Bre with the bookstore, given that she read up and did all this research on businesses and marketing and having a website. I think Megan can use that knowledge for Bre now.
What did you think of Megan and Jess in this? Because they were actually together in this episode. There was the first time we didn't hear Jess complain about Megan in any way, that she wasn't here when I was younger, when she needed to be, X, Y, and Z. But we saw that Jess was actually appreciative. It's like, hey, the website's working. I'm getting guests from all over the place. What did you think of that?
Well, to be able to praise her, because that's essentially what she's doing by saying this stuff has been working. To be able to praise her, and also just no awkwardness, no tension, no not having to throw her under the bus in any way. I thought this was more than a baby step. I thought this was a big step.
They were civil. And she handed her
They were
coffee.
more than okay. Everything seemed friendly. There were smiles. I was shocked.
I know. It's actually refreshing, because I was kind of expecting like another tension moment, but we didn't get it. And it's a nice breath of fresh air.
That, now that you mention it, was one of the many ways. I just feel like the season shifted in this episode. I feel like we had a couple patterns that we kept seeing over and over. And it was just different. The characters we focused on and what the dynamics were like were just different, and that was a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Let's talk about another big story, shall we? Abby, Thomas, and Mick. This whole Thomas-Mick development. Will it be in development? Will it not be? All these things working against it. We found a little bit more information thanks to Mick, a little bit about their brotherhood background. They weren't, I mean, okay, so there was a point where they were really close growing up, but family, they were treated differently by their parents, and that just they caused a lot of tensions in some respect. Mick was treated more harsher, but he got more attention than Thomas did. Do you understand this dynamic that Tom might be doing all this out of jealousy?
Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, I thought Nell had a lot of insight and basically said it wasn't that Charles was a bad man or even a bad parent, but just he didn't know how to talk to Thomas. And the funny thing is, apparently Mick got yelled at and fussed at and chewed out a lot, which I'm hearing that and I'm like, that's not really positive either. Right. But the bottom line is, at least he was talking to Mick. Even if it was like there was tension and fights and stuff, at least they were talking. And I thought Nell was very insightful to say he just didn't know how to handle Thomas. And so I can attest that there is nothing worse than feeling ignored in that situation. Like, having fights and getting in trouble and whatever is one thing. That's tough. But I think the hardest thing in the world is getting ignored, especially from a parent, especially from a dad. It's kind of crazy because these are really old men to sadly still be fighting over
old men, but yes.
Well, I'm saying this isn't like, we talk about Jess needs to move on.
Right.
She's a generation younger than them, and we're telling her to move on from her issues. So it's like, my God, Mick and Thomas are like a generation higher to be having childhood issues. But, I think that's...
Sometimes childhood sibling rivalry issues, that's a lifelong thing. Maybe it's not, like, youth isn't an excuse for that. That's a lifelong
Well,
issue.
because they took it into their adulthood. They never healed it. And so when you don't heal something, it just keeps popping up in more places in your life. So there it's back again.
Yeah, but it actually makes more sense knowing that Thomas is coming out of pure, maybe jealousy now, halting this development that Mick so wants to do, maybe just out of pure spite.
Well, and how sad, because I have friends who like really care about the environment, and how sad that he's using this cover of like, it's bad for the environment, it's corporate, whatever. But it sounds like he doesn't really care about that stuff. Yeah. It does sound all personal. It's
more so he just doesn't want Mick to do this because it might essentially just be another win for Mick and a loss for him.
Right, but I was trying to figure out, what does it exactly mean that Mick was made the trustee in terms of...
Mick has the legal rights to do whatever he wants with this development.
So it's going to be difficult for, even though Abby said there's a lot of risk, it's going to be difficult for Thomas to override that, right?
Yes, essentially. But Thomas has his law firm, apparently, that's fighting against this, causing halts in this. But I think Mick ultimately has the hearsay to go with this development, but the Thomas is actually putting up the roadblocks for this.
Now, I'm asking this because multiple people have brought it up. This is the first time this has even occurred to me, but maybe I missed something obvious.
Okay.
Do you think Megan was caught up in the Mick and Thomas stuff?
Yeah, you guys, I was going to save this for my predictions.
For your predictions.
And I told you I had, before the show, before we went live, I was like, I have a big prediction. I'm just going to say it now. So you can't say I stole it from anyone. I said Megan, in my predictions, I said Megan was in the middle. There might have been a love triangle because Thomas, get this, Thomas was always jealous, always wanted to be like Mick, always wanted to have what Mick wanted. And there was a line that Megan says, you just, not everyone can't always be with the people you love. I'm thinking that Thomas was actually in love with Megan, but Megan chose Mick over Thomas. Because also, there was a line that Megan says, there was a point when people couldn't tell which man she was dating. So there was a clear love triangle going on.
That is so messy.
It's not
for
just
Hallmark.
about sibling rivalry, it's about love triangle too. Throw that in the mix. Barbara, I know you're watching, tell me if I'm right. Just tell me if I'm right.
That is insane. I am sitting here reeling from, you were right. You had a major prediction.
Yes, that is it. tell me, Chessies, do you agree? Do you think Megan got caught up in this? Because we saw the picture. We saw that old picture of them. Megan is literally in the middle. They all looked happy. I think there was a love triangle between them, and it totally makes sense. It makes complete sense for all of this.
There is a lot of support for your theory in the comments, so it just may be possible.
Yes.
That I will say, we have already talked about how Chesapeake Shores is like real family life and all the dysfunction that comes with it, more so than the rest of Hallmark. This will be next level messy drama for Hallmark. If there was a love triangle. Now, what do you think the love triangle will resurface?
I think so.
Or do you think it's just in the history?
Now with this in my mind, like I literally had a mind-blowing moment last night when I was watching this episode, and I think I screamed out loud at the TV. I'm like, no way. Because if you think about it, when Thomas first walks into the scene at the wedding episode, he goes up to Mick first. They hug, they embrace. I think there was something there. And it really depends on the next interaction. We actually see Megan and Thomas together, if there was actually chemistry between those two. If there was actually a romantic history between those two.
The thing that sucks is if that happens, Mick will get competitive, and I don't want to see Mick try to get Megan back just to beat Thomas. Like, because we've talked about, will Mick and Thomas, or will, not Mick and Thomas, will Mick and Megan ever have a chance again or ever return to something? I would hate to see that happen. I don't know. Chris agrees with me that kind of love triangle would be a pretty messy soap opera-like storyline for Hallmark.
Totally agree.
But bring it on if that is in the storyline.
Yes.
We'll go through it all.
Thanks, Chris. We were also talking last night via Twitter as well. For this whole development thing with Mick, do you think Mick is telling us all the information that we need to know? It still feels like he's hiding something.
Do you mean with there's something in the past to uncover, or just in the current situation there's stuff we don't know?
Yeah, and everything. Do you think this development's honest?
No, because there's got to be some, even if it's a personal thing, there's got to be some end game. I keep waiting to feel like, what does he really want to do? Like, I feel like we haven't heard, and even if he's just doing this because of Thomas, it's just so odd that he wouldn't have an end game with it. I agree with you. I think that something's being withheld from the discussion.
Yep.
Which is terrible to put Abby in that position.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, like, if Megan was in the position earlier, like, men, they were just younger in their personal life, and now putting his own daughter into it, that's mean. That's really mean.
Somehow, Abby doesn't seem to be extremely overwhelmed and stressed about being in the middle of it right now. But, I mean, this is ramping up the drama trajectory very fast.
Oh, for sure. But do you think that Mick will actually do the right thing? Because Abby actually gave the okay to her boss, Matt Fox, saying it's okay to go along with this development, knowing or thinking that Mick will actually do the right thing in the end.
I don't know. I think this storyline is not quite ready to be wrapped up.
No.
So I think we have some more to go through.
Yeah, I believe in the end that you're going to do the right thing. Oh, that's very questionable. I sure hope so. I mean, I'd like to think positive for Mick. Hopefully he'll come around and tell us the whole truth.
I do think it's funny how there's this running thing about, is this the new Mick or the old Mick? And, like, he called Bre by her middle name. And so they were like, well, that's the first time in 6 months. I think Mick is on a growth trajectory. I just think there's some stuff that hasn't quite been dealt with yet. So I don't think it's like Mick was the one, you know, the new Mick, and then it's all over. I think it's just there's going to be some ups and downs. I think we're still in for a bumpy ride.
Oh, for sure. It's already bumpy. It's just, I just want this storyline to unravel just so I can have the bragging rights and say I was correct.
Somebody said, what if the big secret has to do with business things, like possibly embezzling instead of a love triangle? I have wondered if there is some corruption in the business realm as well.
Right.
That's being hidden, either past or present, to be honest.
I still think there's a love triangle in the past that needs to be brought up. But also, it makes me question, because last night during all this, you know, it just made me question how many developments of Mick's are actually truly honest. You know, or clean developments. In that sense.
Right, because he's very proud of the way he does business, but just how above board is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm also very torn because we saw in the finale of season 1, we saw him actually sit down with other coworkers of him and work out numbers. So he knows how to do it. It just, did he do it correctly? Did he actually skim money off the top? We don't know. All these questions, so many questions. We don't know. But things to also still develop, Kevin and Sarah, who we still didn't really get her name, but I'm just going to go off of Sarah.
And who still really haven't had a first date.
Yeah, okay. What did you think of this date?
Well,
quote unquote first date, dinner.
okay.
Something.
I get both sides because I understand why she's salty that he didn't call right away.
Yes.
Because granted, if I gave my number to someone and I didn't hear from them for 10 days or however long we're supposed to think that it was, I would be a little bit like, really? Like, you're going to text me now? I forgot about this. Like, I moved on. So I get her point. However, I think that he was very sweet and he humbled himself and officially made it clear, like, asked her out on a date. He didn't do this dumb stuff that people do in 2017 of want to hang out where you're not sure if it's a date.
Right.
He explicitly
technology.
said, want to go out on a date. And I was so proud of him for that. And so I think that I'm team give Kevin a chance here. And I don't think that inviting him, who among us would want to go on a first date and meet someone's coworkers? Police station or not. I did not like her doing that.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. But I did like the line that she dropped. She's like, these guys are like my brothers. You have to go through them first, you know, and get their approval, X, Y, Z. It's like, yeah, I get that. You don't do
But
that
they're
on
not,
the first
come
date.
on, you're not getting engaged.
Yeah, you don't do that on the first date.
Right. That's fine. He can meet the brothers. He can go through them. I just don't think now is the time. And honestly, I still like Sarah. I'm still fine with the relationship.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in the comments are saying it's making them turn against Sarah because she just seems abrasive and not that endearing in the way that she's making it so difficult.
I actually like her directness because I feel there are so many storylines where girls aren't taking the initiative, and she's a girl who will. Or
Okay,
woman
but
who will.
also she doesn't know this because they haven't even had a first date yet. That's not Kevin's fault. But Kevin is healing from a breakup and trying to process all of that. I respect him for wanting to be sure that everything is done and wrapped up with this other person before he jumps into another relationship. And I think, you know, it's not that he didn't call her because he's trying to play games or something. I think as she gets to know him, she'll discover he's a very genuine person.
I think so too. And we, the audience, know that he's a generous person. Do you think it was too soon for him to say, hey, I just had an unfortunate fallout with a fiance? He's just not in the right space for that. Or do you think that would be too soon on his part to actually come clean?
Well, I mean, I think in
background.
that moment he was fighting for a date, and it seemed like he might actually not get the date. So I don't know that he felt like he could dump that stuff on them right then.
Yeah. But I do like this. I mean, it's a slow burn, but sometimes the best relationships start slow. You know, compared to just jumping right into it like other televisions and movies do, you know?
Yes. What did you think of her interactions with Connor?
I like that. She put Connor in his place. And I think that's the first woman we've actually seen put Connor in his place.
Which is funny because she put Connor in his place and then Bre put Simon in his place. So it was an episode of men getting put in their place.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Although I thought we were going to get, because people keep asking about the opening credits, I was thinking this week we were finally going to get a Connor romantic storyline, and then all we got was some failed flirting.
Yeah, and I was just I also have in my notes a question, like, what happened to his law school girlfriend that he was, you know, the study buddy girlfriend that he was kind of seeing romantically a little bit in season 1. What happened to her?
I don't know. That threw me off about this episode, is we were getting more Connor, and I thought that we were going to get more with him in the new job, maybe a new person. We did not get a lot of new.
Yeah, but even Kevin was like, maybe you should just quit. So makes me beg the question, is Connor actually going to stay in law? maybe there's a reason why we're not seeing Connor at work, because maybe he's not. Maybe he will actually leave law and do something else.
I think this is a good insight. Christy said Kevin already had a Georgia, doesn't need another one. And I guess maybe that's the reason I'm not so sure about this Sarah dynamic is I feel like Kevin has already tried dating the no-nonsense type of girl. So in that sense, I don't think Sarah's new for him. There's a discussion going on in the live chat right now about are they a match. I don't think it would be new for him to have a no-nonsense, take charge kind of girl. I think he already had that in Georgia.
I mean, I can understand. Maybe that's something he actually likes in a woman, like the woman that
Maybe
takes
that's
charge.
his type.
Maybe that is his type.
She's making him pay the ticket. He thought it was just for purposes of the phone number, and she's like, no, pay the fine.
Did you see that? Though there was like it was all in the acting. It's like, and he was like, "Oh, I thought you," and then she's like, "No, call me." It was more of a call me, just call me. Did you not see that? It was
no, I guess I missed
again.
that.
It was
go back.
It was in front of Connor, so it was like it was her way of trying to be subtle. Like, no, call me
because he still hadn't called her at that point, which she was salty about. And I will say, there's no excuse for that. That is the one time where I will clearly take her side. Is if someone gives you their number and you're not interested, fine. Leave it. Hope you don't run into them again. But if they give you their number and you are interested, call them.
Yeah. Well, he did better, and he actually went up to her and directly asked her out. So I like this. It's that slow burn that we're all yearning for.
And apparently, Connor introduces Danielle, the study buddy, to his mom in next week's promo. There we go.
I was trying to rack my brain what her name was. Danielle.
What a
Thank
great
you.
couple name. I want to go to a wedding of Connor and Danielle.
That's a great name.
I know.
Where is she? She's in the credits.
We're waiting.
Yeah.
This was episode 4. We have 6 left.
Maybe Danielle, because Danielle's also not. Maybe Danielle will help steer Connor. I feel like this is getting into predictions here. Help steer Connor into like what he actually wants to do with law.
Because I think he does still need to find his sweet spot in a way that he can enjoy what he does at the same level that like Abby does, for example.
Yeah. But other than that, anything else about this episode that you liked?
I did notice that David was back, which is interesting because he was
we didn't see him.
We didn't see him. I thought he was so absent last week that I thought the assumption was David was just gone. So that was a weird situation to me that he's back, but then we didn't see him, but he's apparently back.
You know how writers are always like, hey, this character is still in the picture, but we're literally not visually going to show him in the picture. We're just going to write in an excuse why he's not there.
Right, but I mean, I just thought it was a very intentional choice for them to point out that he's still here. Because last week we saw so much of the bed and breakfast and he was gone. I just thought he was really gone. So, I don't know. I think this episode got very interesting with Trace. It made me very curious with Mick and Thomas. It was just a different episode. And yeah, very change of pace.
Yes, change of pace. Speaking of change of pace, let's change the pace of this show. Let's talk about a little bit of news, shall we?
Ooh.
AFTERBUZZ TV News.
So for those who may not have watched it, Jesse Metcalf actually was on Home and Family this past Thursday. I love it every time he was on Home and Family. I missed it, unfortunately. So I watched it, but it was great. But I wasn't there in the audience, which was fun. But he performed an acoustic version of the Free Fall, and then we had a bunch of people in the audience, and he sang great. It was the solo version. The acoustic version of the Free Fall sounded amazing.
And you know what's crazy? We were talking about this. I didn't get tired of his song in the episode. It's a great song. I will download it when it's available. Yeah,
so if you guys happen to miss it, it's available on Hallmark Channel, Home and Family. Go check it out. His performance. He talks about, his character on the show, the song, the music career. This show has kind of helped him in his personal life with the music career. So yeah, it was a great interview. So go check it out. So other than that, I guess there's only one thing left to do.
I'm so excited.
Oh, it's coming.
Especially today.
It's predictions.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV Predictions.
So I said my big one
I'm
about
sorry
Megan
to
and the
make you
triangle.
let the cat out of the bag.
It's okay. But you actually questioned this new guy that Abby meets up with in next episode. Do you think something is actually going to happen?
Well, I don't know why you're acting so shocked about my prediction, Marisa, because as you recall, it was you who sat here and said because Abby and Trace are the end game pairing of the show, they still have some speed bumps in the road, shall we say. They may not be together nonstop till the end of the series. So I'm not happy about this, but those of you who watch the preview for next week, which, I mean, they show the preview a lot. Every day, I feel like after Home and Family, they show the Chesapeake Shores preview. If you see the preview for next week's episode, they say someone gets a fresh start or something to that effect. And then Abby meets this new man. And Ivan, I don't know if they're trying to break up Trace and Abby. I will be very salty, like Sarah. I will be very salty if they are. But that is one of my predictions, is there was a little glimmer in the eyes. There was that eyebrow raise. And I think that that is something romantic that's going to be a temptation. Not an extreme temptation, but like, I think what they're setting us up for is, here's Trace, offered a solo deal, back to his old life in Nashville, and here's Abby meeting someone new, and their relationship is distanced, and I do think we could be going into that dynamic.
Oh, I hope not, because I just, like, I can't imagine how Wes would feel about it. Like, who are you with now? You know, it's just messy already. I don't like this idea. I think maybe they might, you know, with editing, they might try to trick us to think that, oh, because Trace is gone, there might be an opportunity and for someone else in Abby's life, and I was like, I'm done with triangles. I mean, we don't need this, especially between Abby and Trace.
This is certainly a triangle we don't need.
We don't need this triangle.
I know, and it threw me off. Hallmark doesn't usually mislead us with this show and the previews, so I would like to hope that this is the exception. What I am excited about is I want more Bre and Simon. I am so excited to see this unfold. I literally cannot wait for that.
I'm excited for that too. I do hope Simon sticks around. I mean, he's on a book tour, and so he's a successful writer. He could also be good for Bre because she's trying to become a successful writer.
I just think it could be such a fun relationship of the two.
Yeah.
Authors. There's so much potential there.
I think it's like they could challenge each other in ways that they don't think they could have challenged on themselves on their own.
Do we think that Kevin and Sarah will actually get momentum, or do we think that it's going to keep trickling along?
I think there will eventually be momentum. Maybe they're like an actual real dinner date. They get real with their backgrounds, their emotions, where they are in their relationship and their status and their personal life. Yeah, I think we just need like actual time devoted to them. Because right now it's only like, oh, Kevin even had the line, we met a few times. But it's like, well, now actually show us when you're together. We had more screen time with Simon and Bre just in this one episode than those two alone in 3 episodes, you know?
Now, I did just connect 2 things. So if Hallmark is misleading, which they could be doing.
It could be.
The fresh start could be Connor and Danielle.
I like that.
If that is the fresh start, then they could have just shown us Abby. I like that theory. I don't know if it's true, but I like that theory because then it's not an Abby. And even if Abby does meet someone, I don't actually think it's going to go somewhere. I think it's just going to be yet another. There's been some like dim yellow caution lights of like, you need to be careful with Trace right now and like be cautious.
Yes.
I think it would just be a little brighter of a caution light if there is anything.
Yeah. Is anyone else saying what they think? In the live chat, you Chessies.
See what people think of the predictions. Well, so Trisha said, doubt that the guy Abby meets will end up going anywhere, which I agree with that. Ariadne says, I want to see more Bre and Simon as well. Such fun chemistry there.
Oh, yeah.
And Trisha's the one who said Hallmark does mislead in previews a lot. I know they mislead in previews. I just feel like with this... Take this episode of Chesapeake Shores. We knew that the solo thing was going to happen. Like, for such a big episode with such a big plot twist in Nashville, they literally gave it away in the previews. So I think sometimes the previews for this show are really overt.
Okay. But I think that meeting up with this mysterious man that Abby meets next week, I think that's just a tease, honestly. I don't think anything is going to come out of it. Because you can definitely tell Abby has for Trace. She keeps calling him. She's actually genuinely worried about the relationship, if anything's going to happen to him. I don't think, like, she meets a new man and be like, oh, I'm going to forget Trace, and he can live his life in Nashville and have a career. So, no.
This is a crazy prediction.
Come out of this.
Chris says, I think you might be right, Stefan. Here's the twist. Perhaps Abby might end up back with Wes, and Trace will find another, like a groupie.
Nope.
That would be so scandalous. If we had the love triangle and that, this show's about to be TV 14.
No, I'm done. Nope. Can't, Chris.
I like the imagination, Chris. I would not place my money if I was a betting man. I would not place my
That's
money
a
on
good
that.
fanfic story. I can
Right.
see that happening in a fanfic, not in the show, though. Nope. No,
No.
I'm just going to say no. But thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching us and listening and joining the live chat. You guys are great. In the meantime, where can everyone keep following you?
Yes, we'll continue to give me your thoughts on our after show and on this episode at Twitter and Instagram, Dr. Lovegrove, DRLOVE, GROVE.
Excellent. So you can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV. You can follow all of us here, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those fun social media platforms at AfterBuzz TV. Keep rating, keep commenting, keep subscribing. We have great things coming up for us, and we
Yes,
have
we do.
special guests too. You're going to have to tune in and just to find out who they are. Thanks, Chessies, and we'll see you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.